Welcome to another 49er edition of The Grueling Truth, brought to you by Gridiron Mo, a new interactive football app where you get to guess what happens during a live NFL game and compete with other fans around the country. Check out Gridiron Mo at www.gridironmo.com. I'm your host, Matt Andrew Scavage, and at this time I'd like to welcome my co-host, former Florida State and 49ers running back and Super Bowl 29 champion, Dexter Carter. How are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great, Matt. Hey, thank you, and it's wonderful to be with my partner again.
Oh, appreciate it. Always look forward to Wednesday nights. And tonight we have a special guest from Pro Football Focus, the 49ers representative of Pro Football Focus, Jeff Deeney. How are you tonight, Jeff?
I'm doing good, Matt. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We appreciate you being on with us tonight.
Not a problem.
So, Jeff, before we get started with, we're going to do a little bit of review of the Seattle game and a preview of the St. Louis game. Before we get there, why don't you tell us a little bit about Pro Football Focus and how you got involved with it?
Sure. So we actually, there's kind of several facets to what we do at Pro Football Focus. I mean, the main thing we kind of do is we grade every single player on every single play. They'll get a grade between +2 and -2 on any play in half-point increments, 0 grade being average, or just kind of what's expected from them on a play. And so we take those grades on a play-by-play basis, and at the end of a game or end of a season, it goes through a normalization process, and players end up having a grade for kind of different facets of their play for a game or a season or a set of games. For example, if you're an edge rusher, you have an overall grade, but then that consists of like your pass rush grade or your grade against the run or your grade when you're dropped into coverage, or we have penalty grades if you're Michael Bennett and you're lining up off sides, jumping off sides once or twice a game. So we have those grades which kind of have rankings, and we we have roughly 60%, I think 20 of the 32 NFL teams actually are clients of ours, so they'll use that grading data kind of as a self-scout, if you will, to kind of just, or as a kind of review process, if to check on their own grading system, or to scouting their opponents as well. So we have that, and then at the same time that we do the grading, we collect just a tremendous amount of data from every single play, and so by doing that, we have a database that's just we're able to generate just an enormous amount of analytical and advanced statistical data that teams can use as far as scouting and game planning their opponents.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've been on the Pro Football Focus website for the last few years as I became familiar with it, and also other sites like Football Outsiders. A lot of really great resources out there, but I always like Pro Football Focus just for the ratings. You just it gives you a really quick overview, in my opinion, of what each player does. And like you said, it's really good to get the specialized ratings, like for like an offensive lineman, how they did against the pass rush, how they did against the run, things like that.
Exactly. I mean, I think we're one of the only people that do that. I mean, and teams can use that stuff because one of the things we can tell them is if you're an offensive tackle and you're giving up half your pressures via bull rush, that's, if it's your own tackle that's doing that, that's something you can maybe work with them to correct. Or if that's one of your opponents that's coming up, that's something where you say, okay, well, this is something we can exploit. If we just, bull rush this guy, we're, able to get to the quarterback a little easier. So that's kind of one example of, how teams can use our data to their advantage.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that I follow you on Twitter, and follow a couple other guys that put out advanced statistical data. But, you being the 49ers guy, it's a real – I always look forward to seeing your posts on my Twitter feed because it gives me – I know what I saw during the game, but then it gives me a better perspective as a fan and as someone who, writes about the 49ers and talks about the 49ers. It gives me a really quick picture, a nice little snapshot of exactly what took place during the game, and I love when it gets really specific like that because you will tweet things that maybe I noticed, but not in quite in the light that you'll describe it.
Yeah, I mean, we have probably 4 or 5 sets of eyes and probably about 30 total man hours that go into grading and charting each game. Because we have, several people will go through it, and then we have a review process and, so on and so forth. So, I mean, there's a lot of manpower that goes to the numbers that come out for each game. And, I mean, we've talked about this before we went on the air, but, I've, lifetime 49ers fan. Our family's had season tickets going back to the Kezar days. And, I've been, a stat head all my life growing up, whether it was doing, rotisserie baseball or fancy football growing up and stuff. So that's how I kind of got attracted to PFF, just because of, their numbers. And so I was a fan of theirs, and, they kind of went through a growing process a few years back. So I applied for one of their positions, and I think there was about 200 applicants, and I made the cut of the 5 or 6 people they hired. And so this is my 4th season with them, and it's a lot of advanced, sometimes mind-numbing work, but it's definitely a blast.
And Matt, from my perspective as a former player, college Division I football coach and high school coach, the information that I just heard Jeff display is what coaches sit in meetings and crunch the numbers, and they want to know every single number in every single situation so they can better design a game plan to defeat the opposing team. And what Jeff and his organization does would easily be employed by teams. I guarantee you, if I get a head coaching job, I know who I'm calling because I'm going to make sure, I'm going to talk to the powers to be, and I'm going to say, hey, we need to find out how we can contract Jeff and his group, because the numbers that they crunch are so accurate. One, it tells us what our weaknesses are. It tells us what we need to work on. Those kind of things there is for, of course, the entertainment of the fans, but it goes much, much deeper than that. And I guarantee you a lot of teams on the back end utilize their services, just by looking at their website and their numbers on their own players, I promise you. So it's great hearing how it works, because it excites me, if that's the direction that I, go back into, because his numbers are so accurate. So great job,
yeah, absolutely. Jeff. I mean, we have obviously the data on all 32 teams, and that's one thing with a lot of our NFL clients is they don't have either the time or the manpower or even maybe the financial resources to compile some of that stuff for their opponents every week. And so that's one, service we can provide and have it to them, on a Monday from, with the data from up to the game the day before. So they can start game playing on Monday for, right away for that opponent the following weekend. And so we have that data for the NFL. We started doing it for college now even too. So, I said we have 20 teams that, are purchasing our data to various degrees. And I'm sure probably the other 12 have the, $4.99 a month, $4.99 a month plan where they can just kind of see the stuff that's on our website that may not be the super advanced stuff that we're selling directly to teams, but just to get some idea of how their team is grading out.
Right. Yeah. As a fan, I remember looking into, I think that was one of the first things I reached out to you, Jeff, on Twitter. I wanted to know, as a fan, what do fans get access to? And you definitely burst my bubble a little bit when you told me there's things that are just not available to the general public. But if an NFL fan is looking to get more involved with learning more about what Pro Football Focus has to offer, what do you recommend NFL fans do, whether it be on Twitter or getting like a membership or things like that?
Sure. So, I think we have, a lot of our PFF guys are on Twitter. I kind of most of the stuff I put on Twitter is, 49er related. We have a lot of our full-time guys, Sam Munson, who's PFF_Sam on Twitter, and Steve Palazzolo, who is PFF_Steve, are two of our full-time guys who do a lot of analysis. They do a lot of our grading work, but they do a lot of analysis on our site as far as breaking down film and stuff like that. Well, they'll write articles or do some, stuff on our site that's part of our free content, but they'll put a lot of that stuff on Twitter too. So those are really good follows. We have a lot of free content on our website, whether it's just news articles or kind of just game recaps of here are the top 5 guys as far as our grading and stuff like that. And we'll throw in some of our advanced statistics there. We have like Sam's stuff is kind of called our analysis notebook, where he'll kind of like sometimes break down a guy and just have some screenshots or some GIFs or some vines of some players and just kind of showing why he's such a good player. I think he's done some stuff recently on Aaron Donald. I know might be doing something soon on Josh Norman of Carolina, who's having a tremendous year as a cornerback. So we have a lot of free content on the site. We have our premium section, which is kind of gone through some changes, which I'll get into, but it's $4.99 a month. It has some more advanced data. Unfortunately, we don't have as much stuff we've been giving to the public as far as our real advanced stuff as we used to. We've kind of cut back on that. Honestly, 90% of the stuff we have is pretty much exclusive to either our NFL or college clients or some of our major media partners. So what the public sees even in our premium section is just kind of a sliver of what we have available. But kind of our business model is the NFL teams and the major media guys are kind of where our large revenue stream comes in.
Understandable. But yeah, like I said, I always enjoy what I see on the website, and always enjoy the Twitter feed. I also follow Jordan Plocker he was a scout for the Arizona Cardinals, and I think he's a recent hire from PFF, because all of a sudden his Twitter handle changed to PFF Jordan.
we've actually, that's one thing that's become, we've really grown in the last, I would say about 15 months or so, because we had, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but a group that was headed by Chris Collinsworth actually bought a huge stake into the company, and so that's kind of taken it to another level where we've, it's introduced some partnership with some bigger companies and stuff, and as well as some NFL teams. But we've also hired some people that have NFL ties, whether they're former coaches or scouts. Where I think when we started, we had a lot of guys who definitely knew their football, maybe played in high school and stuff, but we're not guys with NFL experience for the most part. We kind of have that now, and so that's helped a lot. One, as far as relationships and getting new clients and stuff, but I think it's kind of helped because a lot of the data we collect was feedback from clients where an NFL team will say, hey, do you guys track this? And we're like, well, no, but we can. And so and that's in the next a couple weeks later, we're starting to collect that data. And so it's so the more, I will say, full-time football, NFL and college guys we've been able to add to the staff, it's kind of enhanced our product and what we're able to offer to people.
That's fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that it's growing as much as it is, because as football, you said, becomes really more full time. There's so many people now. The interest level just keeps growing and growing exponentially every year, and people are just getting more and more into the statistical end of it. They want to know any question that they could possibly think of. And that's where this kind of data just provides these kind of answers that fans are looking for.
Yeah, if you even see now, if you watch Sunday Night Football, every once in a while you'll see a stat that gets thrown in there that's from ours. I know. Yeah. I think when the Niners played the Giants a couple weeks back, they kind of threw up a stat with Kaepernick and that he's getting pressured on 40-something% of his dropbacks, which at the time I think was the most in the league. And so they'll kind of, you'll kind of see a few nuggets, or even I think you're watching college football on ESPN, they'll throw in a couple stats here and there that come from us as well. So I think that's kind of the trend, not even so much from us, but you're seeing, and not even in just football, but even baseball, and you're seeing a lot more of the advanced statistics. Like in baseball, you're now seeing like exit velocity when, with a home run and so on and so forth. And I think that CBS is pimping out their next gen stats and stuff. So there's a lot more of the advanced stats that are kind of being used in telecasts for the average fan now.
Right, exactly. I like seeing that up on the screen, that they're I like seeing stuff from PFF, and sometimes I'll see Football Outsiders and stuff. It's good.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
For people to know. Well, moving on to the Seattle game, it was definitely another rough outing for the 49ers, losing last Thursday night 20-3 to Seattle. I'll ask you guys some questions, but before I do, it looked to me like, if I were to describe that game or describe what the 49ers looked like to me, they looked like they were just sleepwalking. I didn't see like a real sense of urgency. All off season it was tempo. I just don't see the tempo. And Kaepernick didn't even have a rushing attempt for the first time of his career. So I guess I'll ask the question, what did you guys see out there? And, what is what I saw inaccurate, or did you guys see something else? So what was your take on the game?
Well, from my perspective, what can tell the way a game turned out to me is just look at the stats. You're talking about 21 first downs for Seattle and 8 by San Francisco. And then 9.1 third down conversion. In the third quarter, they didn't have 1 third down conversion. If you can't convert on third downs, you don't give yourself a chance to continue drives. You don't have drives, then you don't have a chance to get in the red zone to give yourself a chance to score. So those numbers in itself is very telling. And Seattle had nearly double the total number of offensive plays. That's crazy. 70 plays to 45. You don't and what's interesting is the 49ers had no turnovers. No turnovers. You would think you would give yourself a chance to be successful. But when you have the ball as an offensive team, we talked about it last week, what the 49ers needed to do. And with that troublesome offensive line, although they had looked very promising in a couple of weeks prior to that, but they could not handle Averill. They could not handle Bennett. They couldn't get anything going. So when you look at the numbers, it's not a surprise that they were not successful. Less than 150 yards total in a ball game. You know what? It would take Superman to even give the 49ers a chance to succeed. And the only Superman, that I'm aware of in the NFL, is Cam Newton, based on, his Superman costume. But other than that, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. We were pretty positive, had a pretty positive outlook, as based on the last couple of weeks of the season, or the last couple of games prior to the Seattle game. But man, they look very dismal out there in this past ball game, and looks like very troublesome moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree, and I think you're kind of talking to them looking lackluster, Matt. And I think I don't know how much of that is the Thursday game. I mean, I think you kind of see it every week where the Thursday night games are just really sloppy. I think it's so difficult. I mean, Dexter would be the one to talk about this more than me, but just trying to recover from a game on Sunday physically, let alone trying to game plan for a game that's 4 days later, is just so difficult. Most of these games are not, very high quality football out there. But and then, like Dexter said, Averill and Bennett just had their way with the right side of the Niners line. I mean, some of the grades we had, Eric Pierce had a minus 6.0 grade, which I think I mentioned earlier. Zero is neutral, or kind of average is an average grade. So minus 6 is way down at the bottom of the barrel. He gave up 2 sacks and also 4 hurries. Jordan Devey was minus 3.2, and he only played half the snaps because he was platooning with Tiller. He gave up 2 sacks as well. So, I mean, those 2 guys are just overmatched by, honestly, 2 of the best pass rushers in the league. And then, you made the good point where Colin Kaepernick did not have a single rush for the first time in his career, which is amazing, one, just because he was so pressured so much, and you'd think he would be scrambling and trying to get some positive yardage, where he was actually sacked over half the time he was pressured. So I don't know if that was a directive or something Seattle was doing where they were taking that away. But the thing that fascinates me is one of the things I remember from the NFC Championship game in Seattle was a couple of times, and it was with great success, they ran plays where they basically just ran 4 verticals where they sent the guys straight down the field, on go routes. But they they were basically faux go routes where they just basically ran 30 yards downfield and started blocking. And as soon as they got down there, Kaepernick just took off. They were basically just quarterback draws for the most part. And they worked out great, and they didn't run anything like that or any kind of design runs with Kaepernick at all, which was rather surprising. But, I think it's just, the right side of that offensive line has struggled all year, and they just got exposed against a really, like I said, probably one of the best defensive lines in football.
Well, and I can understand losing. I mean, it wasn't like – all right, we both thought that we're going to lose a close game. And we thought that we would see just a lot more fight than what we saw. There's one play, you talked about how was it a directive that he doesn't run? The one play that really stood out to me was when it was late in the game. I think it was where they settled for their field goal. It's 3rd and 2 from inside the 15. And Kaepernick gets pressured. He rolls out to his right, extends the play. He's got a clear lane to run for 2 yards. And he throws it right at, I don't remember if it was Davis or one of the other tight ends, but right at their feet. And it's like, well, why didn't you run? I had this feeling like last year where it really felt like the coaches were just tying his legs and telling him, don't run.
Yeah, and there's a difference between just, bailing from the pocket immediately, or if your first read isn't there and running, and, running when there's just nothing else there and that's your last resort, and, to try to make a play out of it. Obviously there's a happy medium there. I don't know. It was just rather odd that, like I said, on a night when he was pretty much running for his life, that he didn't even have one single rushing attempt at all was really surprising.
Yeah, very, very, very strange game to watch, And said,
and the other thing I thought was interesting was that they seemed to be the game plan and just some of the decisions, especially late in the game where they, I think it was, 4th and 5 with about 4 or 5 minutes left, and I made their own 30 or so.
Yeah.
Where they decide to punt instead of go for it, and just, I don't know if it's just kind of like I said, the offensive line isn't very good, so they're afraid to take chances, but just very surprising to me some of the just conservative decision making, and even going back to not activating Jared Hayne, which was really surprising. And I get that he's been, he hasn't done a very good job protecting the ball and punt returns, and I think, he's a guy, obviously he's never played football, at least NFL football until this year. So you're going to go through some rough patches with a guy. And I think he's learning that he has to protect the ball and, at all times, but he's just such a dynamic return guy that to not have him out on the field or even, even on the offense, obviously he is a liability at times on offense because his pass protection is not there. That's something he's still a huge weakness. He probably doesn't know a lot of the playbook still, but he's a guy, if you can get the ball to him in space, whether it's just, out of the backfield and, a screen pass or a little pivot route or something, just, get a couple plays in there for him. And I'm just, when he's someone who this offense seems like it's been short of having dynamic playmakers, not having him active was really surprising to me.
Yeah, what I
see, get to that. Go ahead, Dexter.
Yeah, what I see Haynes going through the growing pains, you're right. He has to go through those pains to progress. Like you said, he has never played football and actually progressed and performed far past our expectations. So to deactivate him right now does more to take away from his confidence, than anything else. I think you give him the opportunity to work through those pains, especially it's not like your team is fighting for a playoff spot. So you do what you can to develop this player that has shown incredible skill, to be playing a new game. But he is, in my opinion, he's going through the same thing that I believe the coaching staff is going through. But the coaching staff can't be deactivated. See, they're going through some things. Yes, it was a Thursday night game, but Seattle was also playing on a short week. So, but what I'm seeing is this staff. Now, you can find some. Everybody's got to be a first-time head coach, okay? Some first-time head coaches, even in recent years, have performed very, very well. Now, I don't know how the Miami Dolphins are going to do from this week going forward, especially playing the New England Patriots. But that new head coach is doing something to motivate those players and give them a boost of confidence to where they play. It's the same players, but they're playing way beyond what their abilities have shown with Philbin since the season started.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a motivation factor or what it is, but this staff has to take some of the responsibility. They're so ebb and flow that they're not getting something done. They're not getting something across to these players. And maybe coach is a great defensive line coach, but when it comes to creating a feel within that organization and that team that he has a grip on how to create a team for success, he's having a difficult time. Because
right.
those people can coach. I mean, they can. But how? To me, I thought it was a failure when they got rid of a great coach, for because of ego reasons, and then there that one again. I don't want to say anything negative pertaining to a first-year head coach because hey, everybody's got to be a first-year coach at some point. But at the end of the day, as you project forward, either they can get the job done, they can motivate these players, and they can have the system to succeed that these players feel confident in. None of those things right now seem positive moving forward for the 49ers. So there's going to be some hard decisions or maybe easy decisions that need to be made going forward. If Miami can make a decision at the point that they're at to say, hey, a change needs to be made right now. We have players that we brought in, players on this team that can succeed. This coaching staff isn't getting it done, or the head coaches. Then changes need to be made. The 49ers are no different than the Dolphins. So, hey, I like him, but at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for this organization. But I think the difference between Miami and the 49ers is there's something festering in the front office that is way, way deep that goes beyond just the players on the team, motivating the team, and the system in which they're playing, the system that they're trying to play with. So it's just it seems like things are going to have to be shaken up if they are to even have an opportunity to get back to close to 500.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about ego and with them getting rid of Harbaugh, and I think that's kind of the thing here is I don't see them making a move with Tom Sewell anytime soon because he's kind of their hand-picked guy. And so if they are getting rid of him this quickly, they're admitting that they're wrong and that they made a really horrible mistake, and I don't think they're ready to do that yet, whether it's the right move or not.
Exactly right. I totally agree with that. It looks to me like they're just going to, dig their heels in the ground even more just to prove that this is the right direction to go, and it just didn't work this year or something like that. And what I'm fearing, and this is as we switch gears, as we try to figure out what is wrong and what is the correct narrative of Colin Kaepernick, is Kaepernick set up to be the fall guy for this? Because he was, the rumor is that Trent Baalke really liked Andy Dalton, and Jim Harbaugh really liked Colin Kaepernick in the 2011 draft, and he lobbied Trent Baalke to draft Kaepernick.
Well, if I can interject there, I don't even think that's an argument or a debate. It's easy to make that claim here and now, but who's been to the most conference championship? Who's been to the Super Bowl?
Exactly.
So he may have liked Dalton, but nobody was complaining when Cap was succeeding in the system that Harbaugh had created for him. It all goes back to the front office and Harbaugh clashing. And if they'd have let the egotistical, narcissist guy that they knew he was when they brought him in and let him do what he does, just leave him alone, you know what, they'd have continued to have success. He built that program literally. He won from the time he stepped, and he's done it everywhere he went. He did it he built it at San Diego State, but he won initially when he got to Stanford. He won initially when he got to San Francisco, and he's winning now at Michigan. As long as you understand he's getting and let him be, I guarantee you they will still be winning now.
I could not agree more.
Yeah, it's painful to watch, you know, because we knew what we had, you know, as whether just from an analyst point of view or just from a fan's point of view, we knew what we had with Jim Harbaugh. We knew that we're going to be competing for a conference championship, for an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl pretty much every year, as long as the talent was continuing to come in from the GM.
Yeah,
so,
and I know. Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to finish up with was I'm just fearing that they want to get rid of everything Jim Harbaugh, and they're setting up Colin Kaepernick to be the fall guy. And I really hope that that's not true, because that's unfortunate. That would be just such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of starting to look that way a bit, and it's I mean, I think it's going back. I even go like Dexter said, they knew what they were getting into with Jim Harbaugh when they hired him, and I think it was clear to everyone he's not going to have this just to sure Mike Tomlin type run where he's going to spend 12 years with the same team. But I think you could have gotten at least 6 or 7 out of him, and to honestly get really 3 years out of him, because the whispers and all that stuff started in March with the Cleveland rumors, everything else, and pretty much undermined the entire season. So in my point of view, last year was pretty much a waste. So, I mean, you pretty much got 3 good years out of Harbaugh. It was with one of the best coaches in the league. Like I said, when you have a guy like that who can win at that rate, I mean, and I fully get how much of a pain in the ass he is to probably deal with on a daily basis and work with. But when you're winning like that, you find a way to make it work, and no matter what. And I mean, and a lot of the head coaches, and I'm sure Dexter can talk about this, that are the great head coaches in the league, are a pain to deal with. Maybe not quite to the Harbaugh level, but that's part of the reason why he's such a pain to deal with. Is also the same reason why he's such a successful head coach, because he's so driven and he's so damn competitive. And that's, like I said, that's the reasons why he's kind of it's so difficult to deal with, but that's why he's so successful as well.
Yeah, and I won't I won't direct this towards the NFL, but I don't have a problem directing it towards college coaches. But when you talk about coaches that are successful, that have the same personality, that are the narcissistic type of personalities, you're talking about the Nick Sabans, you're talking about the Jimbo Fishers, and Les Miles also, but Les is, I like his personality. He's a cool type guy to me. But this is who these guys are, and when they're winning, everybody loves them, and they accept those things that the 49ers got to a point to where they weren't going to accept with Harbaugh. But when they winning, he was the same coach that won that got the teams to the NFC Championship games and to the Super Bowl. But at some point, when people who are in the power positions get tired of it, it can go sour real quick. And that's what happened to the 49ers. It happened really quick, but nothing changed with Harbaugh. So why was he going to change anything he was doing? This is who he is. This is who he is, and he's taking the same plan, the same personality, the same narcissistic, attitude and personality to Michigan. And you know what? They know it, but he's part of the family, and he turned that thing around quick, because it's all about having a plan. It's all about following a process, and the players buying into winning. Players are buying into winning, and players, especially have a former player as a coach, they can relate a little bit easier, but when you take a general manager or athletic director that wants to get into a pissing match, It's only downhill from there, and management is going to win every time. But unless you're Jerry Jones who wants to do everything, win, lose, or draw, Jerry Jones isn't going anywhere. But that coach would go.
That's how it works. And that's unfortunate because, like Jeff said, we probably could have got at least. I mean, we knew we weren't going to get 10 to 15 years, but gosh, I really thought we could have got 6 or 7. It's a shame that it didn't work out that way. But the other thing that's really going around a lot. We've seen, the first game, the Monday nighter against Minnesota, that went well. We saw Colin Kaepernick look improved, and then we had 3 straight weeks against Pittsburgh, Green Bay, and Arizona where it was just abysmal, and then 2 weeks where things looked up again, and then the Seattle game. Well, the question always comes up, who is the true Colin Kaepernick? And you can find whatever the model in your mind is of who he is, you can find lots of highlights that prove that. And so I guess, one of the things that I like about Pro Football Focus and, statistical analysis like that is maybe it gives us a glimpse as to, who the quarterback really is. So I guess I'd ask, who do you guys think he really is? Is he regressing to the point where, he's going to be RG3 in a couple of years? Or is he still the guy that we saw take the 49ers to championship games that just, there's just not as much going on around him? I've got my opinion, but I'd like to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I think that answer is probably somewhere in the middle. He's obviously not regressed to the RG3 level. I think the one similarity I think you could make with both of those guys is they kind of, took the league by storm in 2012 with kind of, the read option, that kind of craze. And I think defenses have been able to kind of figure out how to defend that a lot better. And I think that's made things a little difficult, for both of them. And I think that's where, I think with RG3, I think he's had a, hard time staying healthy as well. But, so I think that's, on our side, he was one of the top quarterbacks in the league in 2012, Kaepernick. And he was, didn't quite grade out to the same level in 2013, but he was still, in that upper echelon. And then, 2014 is really where the regression kind of started to come in. And then obviously this year it's kind of fallen off a cliff. But, you kind of have to look, okay, well, what's around him? And, in 2012 and 13, he had one of the best offensive lines in football. And last year, that was not the case. It was probably below average offensive line. And then this year,
Definitely.
He has one of the worst offensive lines in football. If you look at just our grading, Marcus Martin is ranked out 34th out of 35 centers in the league. Jordan Devey is 75th out of 80 guards. Eric Pierce is 73rd out of 77 tackles. We have a pass block efficiency stat that's for entire offensive lines, and the Niners are ranked 30th out of 32 teams. Ironically, the Rams are 31st, and the Seahawks are 32nd. So he, I think that's one example. He's not getting the protection he was, back in 2012, 2013. He's being pressured on over 40% of his dropbacks, I think, which is the 4th most in the league. And a lot of that is offensive line. A little bit of that is him because he does hold the ball, more than the average quarterback is. Russell Wilson's up there. I think Russell Wilson is at the top of the list because he's another guy who, one, their offensive line is terrible, but, he holds the ball a lot longer than the average quarterback as well. But, and I think it's just, our data has kind of shown for the last 4 years that, when Kaepernick has been pressured, his, every quarterback's rating goes down when they're pressured. The average quarterback's rating drops, 30 points from when they're not pressured to when they're pressured. But in Kaepernick's case, it's even higher. And, this year he's got a 48.6 quarterback rating when he's been pressured, and the NFL average is around 71. His completion rate is about 38%, which is 29th out of 30 quarterbacks. His accuracy percentage is 48%, which is 28th out of 30 quarterbacks. So, one of his weaknesses is when he's been under pressure, his stats, his numbers are not very good. And obviously the last years, and especially this year, he's getting pressured a tremendous amount of time. So, that's just a very bad combination. And then the other thing with him is, he's been sacked a quarter of the time he's been pressured this year, which is the second highest figure in the league behind Mariota. So, he's getting sacked a lot when he's being pressured too. So, I mean, that's another bad thing. So, you take that, you take the offensive line struggles, you take in that the coaching staff really, I mean, I guess you say on paper, is not the quality of the offensive coaching staff he's had the last 3 years, and he's not being put in a position where he can be successful, that it's much more difficult for him to succeed. And I think he's gotten to a point, I mean, especially you look at it with the Green Bay game after he threw those 2 pick sixes versus Arizona, he looked very tentative against Green Bay where he didn't want to put a ball in traffic. He was throwing a lot of balls away. He just looked very tentative. I think mentally at this point, he's just almost shot where I think he's really lacking confidence at this point. And so it's just, which then gets to a debate of, okay, is this a quarterback that can be salvaged with the Niners, or is this a guy who, maybe needs a fresh start somewhere else with a different coaching staff and a different franchise that could, put him in a position where he can be successful?
Yeah, I have to concur with all of that you just stated, especially if the staff stays the same, then I think Cap needs a change. The offensive line, as you stated, when we try to define and see who Cap really is, the line defines who he is. And defensive coordinators in the league, they are smart, and they did catch up with the read zone offense with RG3 and with Cap. Those things make a tremendous difference. But Cap has never, ever been the type of leader like a Brady or a Manning. Nobody's ever confused him with that. So he won, in the manner in which the system he was in prior to. So he wasn't Peyton Manning then, he wasn't Brady then, and he's not that now. He has always had a team around him. Now he doesn't have that around him, so everybody's expecting him to be this, who is Cap? What kind of leader is he? But Cap's always been who he is. He's a system type guy. The system that he, was in initially, defenses caught up with him, caught up with his talents, but he's still a talented guy. But I just think that sometimes, when turmoil hits in the system that you're in, the coaches that you're with, it doesn't matter, because coaches aren't going to all of a sudden start doing something different. It's not, like you said, it's not like the general manager is going to get rid of the head coach. It's not going to happen. So he's not going to change what Cap is doing. The offensive line, they're not just going to get rid of the whole offensive line. So what you see is what you're going to get. I'm not saying that's a negative thing, but with the 49ers, it's not a good thing. So somebody's going to have to have a new zip code. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be Cap before it's anybody else in that organization.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that's a real possibility. I mean, if I remember right, before he got hurt last year, Daniel Kilgore was the second-rated center in the NFL right before he got hurt in the Denver game last year, and he's very possibly coming back soon. And there is a rumor, he put it out there himself on Twitter, Anthony Davis. They had just really missed Anthony Davis because last year the offensive line was saddled with Jonathan Martin for most of the year, and we saw how that went. He just got pushed around just like Eric Pierce is. So, if they had Anthony Davis and Daniel Kilgore out there, and then I think they should be playing Andrew Tiller. I think with Boone and Staley, that would be a decent offensive line. I think they could salvage that. I don't know what the plan is going into next year, but it would be a real shame to just drop him and then see him, because like you said, like you guys both said, I really believe this guy is talented. I think the mental part of the game is something that will come in time. I think a lot of people are expecting it to come like the way it did with Brady, Manning, Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers, he got to sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback for 3 years and learn the system, play in a stacked offense with all his receivers and a very friendly system where, it puts you in a real easy chance to succeed. You couldn't have been in a better system. Brady and Manning are in similar systems, and Kaepernick just hasn't had that luxury. And so it would just be a real shame to see him leave, and then, it'd be good for him to go succeed somewhere else, but it'd be tough as a Niner fan to watch what we had those first couple of years that he was here, and then to see that just go away and have him go succeed somewhere else where this maybe could have been salvaged. So I think too that he is a good quarterback. He needs confidence. He does have some areas where he can get better, but I just don't think that he's this bad quarterback that so many people try to paint him out to be.
Well, I think the system is extremely strong telling fact, because you look at players run the plays that are designed. They run the plays that are called. Cap, when you look at the stats from this last game, it would help Cap, it would help Russell, it would help Peyton Manning, it would help Brady if they had 100-yard rushers. Okay, that has that running game that balances out their attack. The 49ers, when we talk about a debacle, I mean, when you look at plays that are called, plays that are designed, there is also those plays, the results of third down conversions and opportunities in the red zone. No quarterback can succeed in that. Peyton Manning couldn't succeed in that. So, and then when you're running 45 plays in a game, no quarterback can be successful in that. So he's got to be given the tools to be able to succeed. He's not given the tools right now to succeed. You give any player any quarterback 75 plays in a game, and give him 40%, because Seattle had almost 40% third down conversion. You give Cap that opportunity. He's not getting the numbers to even have success. Now, if you gave him those numbers and he either threw interceptions, the offensive performance failed, then you know what? You can throw it all on him. But there's not even enough. And earlier we talked about him throwing the ball down the field. Give him a chance to fail, which means at least say, hey, you know what? We gave you the chance and you failed. When he started throwing the ball down the field those couple of games and giving his receivers an opportunity to make plays for him, you know what? He succeeded. But when you don't have the plays to give him that chance, a lot of it is the offensive line. But 45 plays, that is crazy. That's coaching to me. That's coaching. I don't care how bad the offensive line is. You know what? Coaches got to be creative. Create plays around your weaknesses or your strengths, however you want to look at it. But you got to create plays, run away from, well, it's not really a place they can really run because there's weaknesses across that offensive line. But nonetheless, you got to figure out something. If I'm in that position, then you know what? Put the responsibility on me. But, they've got to create. They got to have a system to run more than 45 plays in a game. Nobody has a chance. It shouldn't even be a surprise that the 49ers lost. If they'd have won with 45 offensive plays, man, I'd have been trying to duplicate what they do.
No question.
Well, anyway,
as we move forward, then I think we all want to see the team get better. No question about it. Every 49er fan out there wants to see the Niners have a successful season, but it's looking like it's going to be what so many predicted. But as we move forward to the St. Louis game, what are you guys expecting to see? Are they going to put up some fight? Kind of like the way they did when they traveled to New York a couple weeks ago, or is it maybe that like Jeff talked about being a Thursday game? Maybe that was part of the reason why it was a little lackluster, or do you see the team just having more internal struggles and we're just going to see more of the same?
Well, I'm expecting it to be a competitive game. I think it's interesting. I think the Rams are 31st in the league in offensive yards per game, with the Niners being 32nd. So you have two teams that are kind of struggling on offense, and obviously I know Todd Gurley is starting to break out now, so that I think gives the Rams offense a little bit more of a punch. So I mean, I'm kind of expecting more of a lower scoring, kind of something about kind of what we've seen from the Niners and the Rams the last years, kind of that 17-13 type game. Yep. And the Rams have kind of been inconsistent a little bit. So, I mean, I expect them to be competitive. I mean, I think it's going to be a tough game for them to win. I'm not a betting man, but I think it's like 8.5 as a spread, if I'm correct. So, with the Rams offense kind of being what it is, that might be a tough cover for them. But I am expecting, especially, I think, they have 3 more days to prepare for this game and and recover and rest from the Thursday night game. So I'm expecting a little bit of better performance. Obviously, it's going to be a tough game to win, but I expect a lot better than what we saw last week.
And these are NFL players, so I surely don't see them going in there and not trying to be competitive or folding the tent and just saying, oh, you know what, we're done. I don't see that happening at all. What I do see is the same offensive line that isn't going to just miraculously be, in the top half of the NFL in 1 week. I don't see that happening. I don't see the play calling, drastically changing. But what I do see is Gurley, who has, over the last 3 to 4 weeks, has been over 100 yards and playing just lights out. So I don't see that changing. And going up against a defense that, pretty inconsistent or consistently not great. And Foley is not going to lose a game for you. He's a consistent quarterback, but he's not going to lose it for you. So I see the 49ers, obviously being competitive, but I just see the Gurley, knowing that the running game means a lot for both teams. I see Gurley still running, for over 100 yards and, getting big chunks of yardage at times. So I just don't see him going into St. Louis and leaving with a victory. Jeff Fisher always has his team prepared and, having his personality. So they're going to be tough. They're going to fight, and I think they're going to defend their home turf.
Yeah, and I think the big question mark is the Rams, have one of the best defensive lines in the league. Eric Donald is probably one of the best defensive tackles in football, and they have, Brockers and, we've talked about Fairley, and it's just, that defensive line is just really strong. And, the thought of Aaron Donald versus, Jordan Devey is a scary one.
Oh,
and we saw what Seattle's defensive line did to them last week. And so, I think that's my one big concern. And then I think the one thing that might be in the Niners' favor, which is similar to last week too, is the Rams' offensive line is not very good either. And I know Greg Robinson's been really struggling, and he's down kind of in the Eric Pierce level as far as grading on our site. So if Ahmad Brooks is rushing off that right side, I think he could have a big game on Sunday.
Yeah, we need Ahmad Brooks to get to the quarterback, because Aaron Lynch probably will, but if they can get something on the other side and get pushed up the middle, I really think the key really is, if they got to be able to contain Gurley to have any kind of chance in this game. As I do think the defense, there is enough pass rush on this team to get after Nick Foles, especially with this offensive line. So I think, first and foremost, they got to stop Todd Gurley. But
yeah, I fully agree. I think, Aaron Lynch is really it's been almost like their entire pass rush so far this season. They're really not getting the starting defensive line. Dorsey, Williams, and Dial are kind of more run-stopping guys. I think going into the Seattle game, they had almost combined for about, I think it was nearly 400 pass rushes the first 6 games without a sack. And then Dial ended up getting a sack against Seattle that I think Lynch had set up. But, really, Aaron Lynch has been their entire pass rush. You're seeing some of it from Armstead and Carradine when they're getting in there, but they're not getting a lot of snaps yet. Tank, I think, got 30 snaps last week, which was the most he's ever had. So I think hopefully they may be starting to give him and Armstead a little more chance to rush the passer, kind of on those third down and the sub packages, hopefully, because the starting defensive line is not getting it done. And, Brooks has kind of been up and down rushing the passer this year too. So, like I said, if you can get some push from Brooks and up the middle a little bit, that at least hopefully it'll make life more difficult for Foles. Like you said, I think the key is trying to stop Todd Gurley, who, looks incredible for a guy who's 22 and is coming off a torn ACL. It's amazing.
Right, no question. And like you said about, Armstead and Tank, especially Armstead, I don't see how there's ever a passing down where you know it's an obvious passing down. How is Armstead not in every single one of those plays? Because he does fairly well.
Yeah, he has. In his limited snaps, he's actually graded out very well with us so far. He and Tank are the only two defensive linemen that have an above, positive pass rush grade on the everyone else is in the negative. So, obviously they're putting in a position. Most of the time when they're in there, it's, third and long, or it's, they're in a nickel or a dime package where it's basically just, go, where obviously I think the other guys are kind of more playing on first down. And, we've seen Williams get some snaps in the nickel too, but most of those times it's they can just pretty much get a full head of steam and go. So, but I'd like to see Armstead and Carradine get a few more chances going forward. Especially, we kind of talked about this with Jared Hayne earlier. This is a team that's rebuilding at this point. I think you can afford to put your young guys in there and give them a chance, whether it's Armstead or Carradine or even maybe Eli Harold a little bit, and just give them some experience and see what they can do, and maybe they'll surprise you.
Yeah, that statement right there actually gives me reason to say, why aren't they playing Hayne? When you said, give these young guys a chance, to develop and play, and to not have Haynes in the ball game, just leaves a question to me. In this situation where you're at in the season, I hate to say, it's not giving up on the season, but it's looking forward for this team. And you want to develop your young talent, because I don't think he's going anywhere. So, put him in the game and let him play. Because, if he can have just a small percentage of the success he had during preseason, he can give the 49ers fans at least something exciting and something to look forward to.
Absolutely. If this 2 years ago and this team's 5-2 and you're worried about, him making a mistake costing you a game which could cost you the division or a home field advantage, something, I totally get it. But at this point in time, you really have nothing to lose. And, Haynes only going to get better by putting him out there and getting him reps, whether it's on the offense or, returning kicks. He's shown the ability to do it. And so, when he can, work through these rough patches and get experience and, get better protecting the ball, that, in 2016 or 2017, when hopefully this is a better team and a team that's contending, you can put him back there and be comfortable that he's going to be a dynamic punt returner, but he's also not going to fumble or, he's going to protect the ball for you. Where if you're sitting him and he's inactive for the rest of the season, I don't know. To me, it's like if this guy's going to go through rough patches because he's never played football before. So if you're not willing to ride all that out, I don't understand why you even signed him in the first place. So, I think you put him back there on punts. You maybe, find 4 or 5 plays for him on offense where, maybe he's not in pass protection. You can put him out, give him a carry or two, give him a few pass routes, maybe give him the ball in his hands in open field and let him see what you can do.
Right, because right now
I couldn't believe he wasn't out there last week. Go ahead, Dexter.
Yeah, I was stunned.
Yeah, because right now, looking at it from a collegiate perspective, next year he's either going to be a redshirt freshman with no experience or, use him as a true freshman this year. So next year he'll be seasoned and he'll be better prepared, to have a breakout season next year. That's the way I look at it. You know what? Play your freshman now so you can have a team of depth and experience next year.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. You brought him in to essentially be a project. He's never played at a pro level before, so you're trying to develop him, and he showed so much flash in the preseason. The guy is tremendous. You get him out in space, and that's what he did when he played rugby. And he's elusive, and he's able to get. He can run through guys. He can dodge guys. He's got such a talent. I just don't see why you wouldn't put him out there, especially at this point at 2-5. It's like last week, what Dexter brought up about, there's 4th and 5 with like 3 minutes to go. You're down 20-3. Go for it.
Right.
Why are we being so timid? Just play. See what happens. You lose, you lose. This is one of those kind of years, but man, I think we got to leave everything out there on the field. You can't just. It just felt like such a give up last week, and I just hope going forward that that's not what we see.
No, I mean, you have nothing to lose at this point. If you lose 20-3 or 27-3, it really doesn't matter. So you might as well go down fighting. So.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, any final thoughts as we look to wrap up the show today? Any final thoughts as far as what to expect from the Rams game or what you guys see going forward?
Well, I think
sorry, go ahead, Dexter.
Since you speak so eloquent and you've got so much valuable information, I have to let you go last, my man. But I think you just summed it up in your statement, just saying, hey, what do you have to lose? Create a game plan that just goes for the gusto. If you lose, hey, lose by trying to move the ball downfield. You know what? Hey, if you're in the red zone and it's within and obviously that's the 20-yard line in, and hey, it's 4th and 1. Hey, go for it. Now it does depend on the score. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? They might be down by just a few points. Then you know what? Hey, you kick the field goal. But it's the circumstances was what they were last week. You gotta give your team something to be optimistic about and to build confidence in them. At least let them know, hey, I trust in you. You know what? Let's go for it. But call plays that would take advantage of the strengths that you have. You might not want to run behind some of, a couple of those weak offensive linemen that you have. Watch film, look at Jeff's stats on the defensive line for the Rams and find out, one, where is their weak spot. And you know what? And that's where you attack. Maybe that's what we should do, make sure that the 49ers are making sure that they subscribe, to your services, my man, so they can take advantage of some of these weaknesses on the opposing team.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do know. I know the Niners use a lot of analytical data for their stuff, as most teams do. But I think kind of going off of your point is, I think, like you said, you want to, at the end of the game, you want to have fired all your bullets, and I just have not seen that the last few weeks. I think whether that's getting Jared Hayne on the field, another guy we haven't really talked about, but another example is Bruce Ellington, who's getting about 2 snaps a game, and I think he's someone who can be a playmaker too, whether it's, finding, even if you're not playing him 15, 20 snaps a game, but at least find a few kind of plays, for him, whether it's a jet sweep or something, or a bubble screen or some sort of end around or something where you get the ball in his hands and let him use his speed and his playmaking ability, where they really haven't been able to do that. And I think just a couple matchups to watch, which we kind of talked about. I think Ahmad Brooks versus Greg Robinson is going to be a matchup to watch. I think it will really help the Niners. And I think, Aaron Donald, to me, is one of the most dynamic players on the defensive side of the ball in football. So I think him against Jordan Devey is going to be a really tough one for the Niners. And obviously, I think it looks like they're still going to kind of do that platoon thing with Devey and Tiller kind of splitting them. But Aaron Donald's going to be a guy to watch against the right side of the Niners line.
At this point, why platoon them?
Yeah. And Matt, as we watch the game this week, and maybe it's just me, but the way in which the Rams utilize Austin, I think the Niners could use Ellington in some
Absolutely.
fashion.
That's exactly what we need to be doing. Ellington, to me, is like he's in the mold of a Percy Harvin, a Randall Cobb, Kayvon Austin, like you said. He's that kind of a guy. Tyler Lockett, yes, exactly. He is that kind of guy. You can use him all over the place, and that's what I'm really hoping to see, even with Reggie Bush. If he's back, I want to see Reggie Bush in the slot. I want to see Bruce Ellington in the backfield. I want them to be moved. They have all these skill guys that can do all kinds of different things. I want to see different formation. I don't want to see 22 personnel where we got 2 tight end and 2 running back, and we're doing a 5-yard pass to Vance McDonald that'll probably get dropped. I want to see. We got all these skill guys that they could be utilizing in different fashion. Like like against the Giants, they ran 2 bubble screens to Bruce Ellington that went for 30 yards. You got to find ways to do that.
And then you never saw him again after that.
Exactly, just benched. It just makes no sense. And so it's like, to me, I know that's certainly inexperienced coaching, but it's like you got to be able to locate that on film and went, man, this was successful, and we got to find ways to get we got to find ways to get the ball into some of these playmakers' hands.
Yeah, this is a copycat league, and I'm telling you, and I'm saying it because we have similar talents as the Patriots. I'm telling you, Davis at tight end will be doing what Gronkowski does. Ellington and Bush will be doing in the slot exactly what the slot guys are doing for the Patriots. There's no way that you could say those guys. Now, Gronkowski is one of the best that there is in the world, but those slot guys, Bush and Ellington cannot duplicate what the 2 receivers that are at New England are doing. You put them off the ball, put them, motion them and, crossing routes, put them one-on-one with the linebacker. They may not score long touchdowns. I think our guys, the 49er guys, has more of an opportunity to take it the distance than the guys for the Patriots in their slot. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, there certainly could be effective.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we all want to see, and when we don't see that, we just kind of see the same thing over and over again. It gets tiresome. So I hope to see something change.
But it will all be acceptable. The losing will be acceptable if we did not think that the Niners had talent. But just the conversation that we just had, we have talented individuals. I just think it's either the coaches don't know the talent, don't believe in the talent, or they really have a problem designing plays for these players to be successful.
Yeah, that's definitely one of those 3 things. Well, as we look to wrap it up and everything, it was really good. Jeff, I really appreciate you hopping on with us tonight. If you could tell everyone again where they can follow you.
On Twitter, it's PFF_Jeff.
PFF_Jeff. Yeah, trust me, it's if you're a 49er fan out there that you like numbers and you like to keep up with the team, it is a breath of fresh air on your Twitter feed. I absolutely love seeing the numbers and the analysis that Jeff provides, and he's well worth a follow. And Dexter, where can everybody follow you at?
Again, is Dexter Carter on Twitter and Instagram, and just Dexter Carter on Facebook.
All right. And I am at MTA Scabbage on Twitter, and I probably retweet everything Jeff puts out there anyways. But, really good being able to go through everything with you guys, and looking forward to the game on Sunday. Hopefully that we get a different result. But appreciate you guys being on. And so on behalf of Jeff Deeney, Dexter Carter, I'm Matt Andrew Scabbage. You've been listening to the 49er edition of The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak. We'll see you all next week.